Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of this series. In this episode, we are going to look at interactive geovisualization using the Folium Python package. So let us get started. All right, so we will look at how to interactively visualize our data. We'll start with creating a simple map. When we were doing GeoPandas, we used the .explore method of GeoPandas to explore the data interactively, and that is what we are about to get in deeper. We use the Folium package for that, so we import Folium, and then we can say that the map object, usually name it M, equal to Folium dot map, and then inside here you can specify the location, or you can leave it like this. Let's test it like this for now, and when you call M, you should see a map which is already interactive. You can zoom in and out and all. But if we want to also give it a start coordinate, we can say location equal to, and in a tuple or a list, you can pass in the coordinates. So for my case, I want it at latitude 6 and longitude -1. When I run it, you see that it zooms into that place for me, and this place is the -6 and 1. We can add a point to know exactly where it is, but that will come very soon. You can also specify the other parameters like the zoom start, which we'll worry ourselves with for now. And so if I put a value like 20 here, by default I think it's 8. If I put 20, you see that it zooms into the maximum possible. I think the maximum is 19 or so. It's around 19, 20 there, but that zooms in just so much to the like the last zoom. And then if I put a value here like 3 also, that means that it zooms out for me. I think the maximum zoom, okay, that is 18, and the zoom start is 10. So, and the minimum zoom is 0. You can adjust that value as you want. So this is how you display a very simple map using Folium. Now let's see how we can create a map that has features like the points, lines, and polygons. But before we do that, I already have the coordinates for the polygons and lines, and so I'll paste them here. These are the coordinates that we'll be using. So you can pause the video and then type them out if you want it that way, or the link to the GitHub repository is also in the description. You can always check it out from there. But these are the coordinates we'll be using, so I just thought that I'll keep them here so that I don't have to be typing them repeatedly in the code. So I'll run this side so that I'll get it in the variables. Now is to see how we can create a map that has points, lines, and polygons. Let me collapse this. I'll copy this one over and then paste it here. Now, if I want to, the zoom start, I'll leave it as default so that it will be like 10. If I want to say add a map, all I need to do is to say Folium, so adding a point, which is also called a marker. If I want to add that, all I have to do is to say Folium.marker, and inside here I specify the location of the marker, and then So that one will be points, coordinates. I want to pick just the first one. The first one, that is 0. And then I tell Folium that I want to add this marker to the map. So add to M, the M, which is the map variable. And then when I do that, I was okay. Our thing is not showing. Let me just give the location here and see. So if I say 6, then -1. Okay, so this is showing. So what was wrong with how we access the... Okay, now this is in the offset, so it looks like it showed, but because this one, the longitude was coming first and then the latitude. So let me change them and then I'll get back to you. Okay, so now I have changed them and they shouldn't give us problems again. So here I can once again say points, course, and then the first one, and we should still see our points somewhere. Okay, very unfortunate now it has to be here, but if you load your file correctly and then the coordinates are right, then you know that you get them at this point. Okay, so maybe the map itself, the location, we can set it to the point coordinates and then the first one, so that is, we know that we are always at that particular center. Okay, that is great. Yeah, but for you, your data will have the actual coordinates of the actual place, and so you shouldn't worry. Now that is how to add a point, or what we call a marker. You can add other stuff, like if you want a tooltip. The tooltip is what shows when you hover your mouse over that particular marker. So I can say click me, and when I run it and I come to my marker, I put my cursor on it. I've not clicked yet, but when I put my cursor on it, I say click me. One that pops up when you click is called a pop-up, and then this pop-up text can be, hey, you clicked me. When I run this and then I click it, you see that I say, hey, you clicked me. That one, when I move my mouse cursor from it, is still showing. But this pop-up, you know, you can customize it. If you know some HTML, you can do that customization. So if I have something like a pop-up text in an HTML, if I say something like an H1, and then here I say, hey, you clicked me. And let me close my tag here. Sorry if you are not really from the web dev side. This is an HTML heading 1, and I can pass this one in here to the pop-up, so that will be pop-up text. If I run this and then click on it, you see that now I have the HTML text in here, or the HTML heading in here. That tells us that if you know HTML, you can really customize these pop-ups. Maybe you want to set that when you click a point, an image will show with some description, with some button, with some link or something like that, or even a form. Anything that you can, almost anything you can create with HTML, you can add to this pop-up. I can even add a color if I want to. So this is still just HTML. So if I add a style attribute and say maybe the color is red, so that now it is red. So if you know HTML, you can just go ahead and customize this. And then this next one is adding a line. That one is called here as a polyline. You know that one too from Shipley, and it also follows the same pattern. So what we can do is to say Folium dot polyline, and then in here we can see that the location, this one is locations, this one will be line coordinates, and then for this one we can specify the color, and then so let's specify color and set that one to red. If we go .add to and then we give it to the map, you see that we will have a line here like this added. You can also add your tooltip to the line and the pop-up. Those ones that we added here, you can add them all to the line. But for now, today, we are just looking at how to add these things. So we will not go so much into customization. That will be for subsequent series. Oh, sorry, subsequent episodes. So if you also want to add a polygon, it's also as simple as that. So adding a polygon. This one will be folium.polygon. And then in here, we specify the locations as well. That should be polygon code. And then we can choose the .add to. And then here will be M. And this is our polygon here. We can do some customizations to our polygon. One of them is to say fill. It's true. You can see even before I run it. If I scroll down, you can see that the polygon, maybe it is filled, but with the same color as the background, so we don't see it. But if we say fill is true, okay, it was not filled. Now we see that it is filled. You can change this fill color if you want to, or the fill opacity, so I can say fill underscore opacity. And this one, if I set it to 1, that means that that blue color, whatever it is this using to fill, it should make it 100% opaque. So I can change the fill color also. So the fill color, and if I set that one to say red, that one to use like that. So you can also customize this polygon and maybe symbolize them based on certain attributes. But that is also how to add a polygon to a map. All right. So now the next session is to see how we can plot our own data. So if we have a data, usually in the form of a GeoJSON, then you can plot it here like this. So what I'll do is to, this place is plotting a GeoJSON, and then here I will import OS because I need it to declare path, and I will import Folium also. I will also import JSON. You don't need to be importing Folium in every cell because this particular tutorial has been broken down into these sections. That is why I'm importing it every time. You don't have to. You can just import at the top ones and run it all through. But the first step is to read the file. So the file, the GeoJSON file, so that is read the file. This is the part of the file. Inside the data folder, the 05 data, and I have a West Africa.GeoJSON file. If you have been following this tutorial, you should understand the folder structure by now. And then this West Africa.GeoJSON, let me show you how I got it. The previous tutorial where we made a map with GeoPandas, you remember that when we come to the top, we loaded the data. So is this West Africa data that I converted to a GeoJSON. We have seen how to convert geodata frames to several file formats in previous episodes, so you can convert it or use your own data and it can still also get along. So it's inside the data folder, the 05 data, and the name is westafrica.geojson. Now that we have the file path, we can read the file itself. So we can say with open and then file path. Still by default is read, but I think I will still want to pass it, and then I'll read this as file. And then I'll say JSON, or let me call it geodata. That should be equal to JSON.load, and I want to load the file. So now this will load the contents of this GeoJSON file into this geodata variable for us. So this geodata is what contains the GeoJSON content, the file content. So now that we have that one, we can bring in our map again. Let me go up there and copy it. And then here I will call the map. And all I have to do is to say folium.geojson. In here, I pass in the data. So the data is geodata. And then, yeah, that should do it. If I come here and say .add to, I can add it to the map. Then when I run this one, okay, the zoom, something with the zoom level. So what I'll do is to center it at maybe somewhere. I'll not use this location. I'll center it as somewhere 13, and then not 23, 13, or even 12 itself, but 13, -1. And then the zoom start, I'll set that to 4. Okay, so that is great. So this is our GeoJSON layer that has been loaded. There are other cool things that we can add to this place, and then that should be something like zoom on click. If I set that to true, now in this current state, I've not run it. If I zoom out so much and I click on it, and nothing really happens. But if this zoom on click is set and I'm zoomed out, when I click on any of them like this, it will zoom me into the place. So that is the zoom on click feature. We can also style like the colors of the polygons. So that should go by style function. It takes a function in there, so we can see, you can write a regular function, but I'll use a lambda here, x, and then it should return a dictionary of the fill color. Maybe I want red, and then for the fill opacity, that place to, maybe I want it at 0.8. I don't want it 100%. And then you see that the color has changed. So you can customize all of these ones also. Maybe you can make this function even a little bit complex, where it checks for a particular thing and colors the polygon based on certain conditions that are met. But we will get deeper into all of that in subsequent series. This is just to show you how that these things are there and how to use them. Now we can add a pop-up also, like we have been doing. So if you want to add a pop-up to a GeoJSON layer, it is quite simple. So you can say folium.geojson pop-up, and then in here you specify the field name in the GeoJSON that you want to use for the pop-up. If you inspect the data, you see that it has a type which is a feature. It's a feature, of course, And inside the properties, that is where what you say our attribute column names are. So we have the population estimate, continent, but I want to use the name column here to do the pop-up so that to show the name of the country. So I can say fields, and then here I pass in the name field. So if I run this one now and I click on it, you see that because of our zoom on click, but you can see that it shows me the country name in the pop-up. All right. So that is also how to add a GeoJSON layer. If you have a GeoJSON layer, that's how you load it and you add it to your map. Now let's look at the final one for today. That is how to add layer groups. So that will be adding layers and layer groups. Once again, I will import Folium, and then the map is folium.map, and then in here the location I'll set it to point courts, the very first one, and yep, I'll leave the zoom start to be default. I'll call my map and I'll run it, and I have my map over here. Okay. Now, if we want to add a layer, the layer groups or the layers usually come with an icon at the top right here. So let's see how we can add that icon, and then we'll add items to that icon or to that layer or widget, or however you want to call it. So add layer group icon or widget, or let me just leave it as layer group, to the map. That will be folium.layer control.add to, and then we add to the map. If I run it, you see that it was not there at first, but now it is there. It only has the OpenStreetMap because that's the only layer in our map file now. And so we can add other layers to this so that we will see them all down here. The first layers that I'll be adding will be the map tile layers. So for now it's only OpenStreetMap, but we can add more. So add map tile layers, and then I can say folium.tile layer, and here you specify the tiles you want to use. Let's add the open streets map, and then the name of the layer. So the name has to appear in the layer icon or the layer panel, or however you want to call that. I'll make it OSM, and then I have to add to, I'll not add to layer group, I'll add to map. And then I can duplicate this for another tile called CatoDB positron. Okay, and then maybe I can call this one CatoDB. So if we run this now you see that we have two things added here. If I switch from this to OSM, of course it's still OSM, but if I switch to the CatoDB positron, you see that I have a new map tile showing. So you can add several map tiles depending on which one you want to use, but I think I'll go back to the OSM. So that is how to add extra map tiles. You can do a quick search on the tiles available in Folium, and then you know that you can just add it using the tile name like that. So let's see if we have a point group, how do we add that one to as layers? So point group, You first create the group, the feature group, then you add the items to the feature group. So it's not just as you don't just add it like you are adding the tiles. This one, you create a feature group, then you add it. So I can say point group and set that to be equal to folium dot feature group. And this feature group, the name as it will appear in the layers panel, let me use panel from henceforth, is called points. You can name it anything. And then as always, you have to add to the map. And then now you can create points and add those points rather to this point group. You remember we have the point coordinates up there, so we can say for item or properly for point in point coords. What we want to do is to say folium dot marker, and then the location is equal to point, maybe pop up. Okay, so let me do it this way for, okay, it's still for point, but I'll take the index first. So IDX, which is the index, in, and then call the enumerate function here. Enumerate. Or maybe I should go without that so that you know what I'm trying to do. If I say pop up is point, or maybe say 0.1. Not all of them will 0.1, but I'll come back and address this shortly. Then I can say dot add to, and then I'll add this one to the point group. Okay, so I'll run this one now. And then when I click this, it says 0.1. When I click this, it says 0.1. When I click this, it says 0.1. But obviously, these are not all 0.1. And then now it's also added to our layers. We can turn it on or off. You realize that it was showing by default. If you want it to be hidden so that you will toggle it on and off, you just call show here to false. In that case, it will not be shown by default. Now you see that it's not there, but when I come here, I can turn it on. Now let's fix the naming. This is why I wanted to use the enumerate. So with that one, I can get an index, or yes, and then the item itself. So I can say IDX, short for index, in enumerate. Then this one can be in an F string. This is the IDX. And then we are doing this because we don't have the point name somewhere. So if it was something like a dictionary, this point coordinates, if there was something like a dictionary, then we could have done the key value pair. But in this case, the enumerate will also help us. If I run this one now and then show our points, when I click on it, you see that this is 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 4, 5. Okay, it starts from 0. So if you want it that way, maybe you can add +1 so that it will not be 0.0, 0.1, but 0.1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is 1, this should be 2, 3, no, okay. So that is it. So if you have several points, you can add them here like that also. And let's see how we can add the line. So the line group, that should be equal to folium dot feature group. This one is called lines, even though it will just be one line. I don't want to show it by default, so show is false. And then I will add to the map. And then I will add a polyline here. So Folium dot polyline. So if you had multiple lines like we do for the points, you can do the for loop for that one also. But this is because it's just one. I'll leave it like this. And then the locations, it should be line code. I'll set the color to be, say, blue. And then I will add the weight to the color of 2.5. I will also set the opacity. I think it will be always 1, but let me just put 1 here. And then now this, if I have to say dot add to, and I will not add to map, I'll add to the line group like that. So if I run this one too, see that I have my line here. When I toggle it on and off, it comes. Great. And so the last part is to add a polygon to it. And so we know that it follows similar patterns. So let me just copy this and then paste this one here. So adding polygon group, and this be called let me call it polygons, but this then becomes polygon, and this becomes polygon, like that. Okay, so for the polygon, let me choose the fill color as green, and the opacity on these ones, I will not really need them here. Maybe the fill is what I can adjust. So the fill, set that to be true, and then the fill opacity, I can set that to be, say, 0.5. Okay. Now if I run this one, also come here, I'll have my polygons, a polygon, my line, and my points, like this. The last thing I want us to add to this is to add the countries layer, so that you see how you can also add your own data as the GeoJSON to the layers if you have to. So we have that one here. The logic should be the same. So I'll come here and copy. Once again, you don't have to be importing these things over and over because I'm breaking it into individual sections. That is why I'm doing this, so that in case you run just one cell, you will not have a problem. So I have to import JSON to here, and then this place is adding a GeoJSON layer to the layer group. If I read the file like that, I can see now that, say, something like countries group, that should be equal to folium.feature group, and then the name is countries. This one, the show should be there. I want it to show by default, so dot add to map, and then I can now say Folium, like we added it up the GeoJSON, and then in here I can say the data equal to geodata, and then the zoom on click, that should be true as well. And also the That is it. Let's now add it to the countries group, and that should be it. Let me see. Okay, now we should zoom out well. Now we see it here like that, but we can come here and also toggle it on or off. And our polygons, they are quite small down there, but we know they are still there. So that is how we add items to as layers. You can go ahead and add a pop-up to the GeoJSON, but I'll keep that for now. So that, my friends, is how we can interactively visualize our data. It's just an introduction to interactive geovisualization. In subsequent episodes, we will look at how to go deeper into some of these tools and then make great maps with Folium. If you have any questions or concerns, please put them down in the comments. I'll come and address them as quickly as I can. But if you like the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you are new. Thank you very much for sticking around up until this time, and until next time, it is goodbye.